going to say cheers. And we're going to go ahead and get started. I think we're going to have people still streaming in for the next couple of minutes, but we're going to go ahead because we have a packed program for you tonight, actually, and today for those on the West Coast, and in Hawaii, even more earlier, right, for you guys. So I'm Kathy Jentz. I am the host of the Garden DC podcast based here in Washington, DC. I am also the editor and publisher of Washington Gardener magazine, which is the publication for gardeners in the greater Washington, DC, mid-Atlantic area. And I'm also a new book author, and I have my book coming out shortly in just a couple weeks. April 12th is the official release date for The Urban Garden, co-written by Terry Spate. And that's 101 ways to grow food and beauty in the city. So it's all about small space gardening solutions. And I'm going to turn the program over now to two of our sponsors. And I'm going to start with Maria Zampini, GardenComm president.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Meet the Authors virtual book party. We're so glad you're joining us tonight. It's going to be some great gardening fun. And as Kathy said, my name is Maria Zampini, and I'm the president of Garden Communicators International, which is commonly referred to as GardenComm. GardenComm is very proud to partner with the National Garden Bureau to introduce you to some absolutely amazing garden writers tonight who belong to both of our organizations. GardenComm members are professionals in the green industry world. And for almost 75 years, our members have shared their gardening passion with homeowners and/or to those who are in the green industry trade. And we do so through a variety of mediums, photographers, speakers, writers, radio, TV, and more. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our co-sponsor, Diane Blazek.
Welcome, everybody. Good evening, no matter where you are throughout the continent. It's wonderful to see you. I'm Diane, the Executive Director of National Garden Bureau and All America Selections. So it's super exciting to be part of this first ever book party, something new we're trying, and it looks like thus far it's a huge success, so we're excited. And this is where you're getting to meet the book authors. So it's like your celebrity sighting. You get to actually meet the authors and find out all about them and their books. My organization, National Garden Bureau, is 102 years old. So since 1920, we have been educating and inspiring people like you to do more gardening. And this book party and other webinars we host are just some of the ways that we do that. And I believe Shelley is posting our web link in the chat. And so you can visit our website and learn more about us. So thanks. And back to you, Kathy.
Thanks, Diana Maria. So to ease this a little bit, because there's so many faces showing on the screen, you might go up to view and hit speaker view. So for me, it's in the upper right. For different Zoom, it might be in different spots, but go to view and hit speaker view, and then that brings up just the face of the person talking at that time. So that makes it sometimes a little easier to follow along. And you can be asking questions and discussing things in the chat box at any time. So go ahead and pop anything you'd like to in the chat. And just to describe our program a little bit this evening, I'm going to be interviewing our four authors and asking them a few questions to get to know them. And then in the middle of those questions, we're going to be drawing for some fabulous prizes. So we'll do 3 drawings in the midst of those questions. And then we'll wrap up and then go into breakout rooms. And you get to choose which of the author you want to spend time in the breakout room with. So as we're asking the questions and talking to the authors, think about which one of them you want to be joining later and asking more information in that private breakout room with them. So let's get started with having them introduce themselves. Our first author is Toni Gattoni.
Hi, I'm Toni Gattoni, and I'm a speaker and an author of The Lifelong Gardener. And my book was designed for anybody who loves to garden, but may have sustained an injury or is having physical issues such as balance, decreased muscle strength, or arthritis in their hands. I offer you ideas, resources, and strategies for how you can keep doing what you love to do, which is to be in the garden, right? With comfort, ease, and joy. So my goal is to share this with as many gardeners as possible. So I encourage you to buy my book for yourself, for your gardener friends or your family members, or all of them. Join me in my book, The Breakout Room, later. Thanks.
Thanks, Tony. Next is Shawn and Allison Mcmanus.
Hey, hi everybody.
Hey guys.
We're Shawn and Allison from Spoken Garden, and it's really fun to see so many familiar faces and names kind of popping up. But for those of you that have no clue who we are, we've been both gardening for years. I came from a background of gardening as a hobby with my parents, and kind of that built into my love of science and becoming a science teacher for about 15 years.
Yeah, and I've been gardening ever since my family owned and operated a roadie farm. I was at the age of 5, and I just worked through that for most of my young and into my adult life. I studied horticulture at WSU and earned both my degrees in environmental horticulture. Now, along with our podcasts and our blog on gardening and our YouTube channel on gardening, we also wrote a book called The First Time Gardener, Growing Plants and Flowers. And it's a great book for any new gardener out there that wants a really good knowledge base to start their garden journey on.
Yeah, and you know, this book is really cool because this is a Cool Springs Press book, and it's part of a series actually called the First Time Gardener series, where there was a growing vegetables book, and there was recently a raised bed gardening, I believe is what it was called. So we just have to say shout out to Cool Springs. Thank you for inviting us to write this for you, and we're really happy with the way it turned out.
Excellent. Thank you, Shawn and Allison. Next, Christy Wilhelmi.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christy Wilhelmi, and I'm here in Los Angeles, Southern California, Zone 10B. And I think someday I'll be Zone 11, but you know, we're slowly getting more tropical. So I have, my book is Grow Your Own Mini Fruit Garden, and it is one of 3 gardening books that I've written. I teach people how to grow their own food through classes, consulting, food garden design, and installation. I've got a podcast called the Garden Nerd Tip of the Week podcast, a YouTube channel, and a blog, and a bunch of other stuff that you can check out if you go to gardennerd.com. So that's about me, and I'm looking forward to talking to all of you in the breakout room at the end.
Awesome, Christy. And last but not least, Raphael Delallo.
Hi, everyone. I'm Raphael Delallo. I'm the founder of Ohio Tropics, and I focus on teaching people all about houseplant care. You can find me at ohiotropics.com. I've been growing houseplants for literally as long as I can remember, probably since middle school, and doing outdoor gardening as well. I regularly write for my site. You can also find me on YouTube. I have a very active presence on Instagram, just Ohio Tropics. And I just published my first book, Houseplant Warrior, that you see here behind me, just this month. So I'm very excited about that. And I hope many of you can join me in the breakout later on.
Thanks, Raphael. Now we're going to get to know our garden book authors a little bit better by asking them some questions, and we're going to do those in rounds. And so our first question is, what compelled or inspired you to write your book? And we're going to start that with Shawn and Allison.
Hey.
Well, there's so many things that inspired us to write this book, but basically just our love of teaching. I mean, again, I come from teaching, and Shawn's a natural teacher, and we just love helping people. But another thing is, we have to say a big inspiration was Jessica Walliser from Cool Springs.
Yeah, we already got a presence online with our podcast and our blog, and we were able to meet Jessica when we went to our first GardenComm International meeting in Salt Lake City. And when we met her there, she encouraged us to go to the pitch session, and she pitched us the book, and pretty much the rest is history.
It was amazing.
So, yeah.
Very inspiring.
Excellent. Christy, what inspired you?
Right. I also have a similar story in that Jessica Walliser from Cool Springs Press contacted me to write Grow Your Own Mini Fruit Garden. And I felt like it was the perfect companion to my small space vegetable gardening book, Gardening for Geeks. It was a chance to dive into the research and really learn all the stuff there is to know about growing fruit in small spaces, because most most books are not written for home gardeners about fruit gardening. They're mostly written for the industry, for agriculture and commercial or university agriculture. So it was a nice opportunity to really bite down on the fruit of the meat of this material and get some salient information in one place for home gardeners.
That's so true, Christy. Yeah, so much is written for the orchardist as a professional, but not so much for the homeowner. So that's great. How about you, Raphael? What inspired you?
Sure. So I get comments literally every day on my blog, on all my social media platforms about people struggling with houseplant care. And so much information out there is so vague that it's difficult for people, especially people that are new to growing houseplants in general, to determine, well, what do you actually do? What does, we read about give it bright and direct light, don't overwater. What does that mean? There's so much that you can say about that. You can be so much more specific. So I've seen all of my readers' struggles, and I created a book that is very easily digestible, but it's also very specific and down to earth in the terms that I use and in my approach. And I try to teach people a holistic approach. You can't just look at one thing, you have to look at everything. And that's what I teach people: how to question, how to evaluate your indoor environment, and how to choose plants that suit your own indoor environment. So there's a lot involved, and that's my aim for my book.
Thanks, Raphael. How about you, Tony? What inspired you to write your book?
Well, I had another book that was half written, and I wasn't planning on writing a book on gardening, but my body had a different idea. My chronic bad back put me down, and in the course of recuperating, I was looking for a way to adapt. And I remembered an article that I had read about adaptive gardening, spent the rest of the time researching the subject. And that brought me to start speaking on the subject, brought me to the Northwest Flower and Garden Show in Seattle. And that's where I was spotted by an editor by Timber Press Publishers. And she approached me and asked me if I was interested in turning my 1-hour seminar into a 30,000 word book. And I had so much to say, it turned out to be 35,000. Go figure.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. That was really inspiring to even hear about how those books came together. So we are already ready for our first raffle item. So our first giveaway is a bag of black gold. It's 1.5 cubic feet bag of soil. You also get a company tote bag and 1 t-shirt for black gold. And Diane Blazek has popped the link in to describe more about black gold. And she is going to scroll through the participants list and pick a winner. Oop, unmute yourself, Diane.
Sorry, you think I know that by now. So I quickly put a bunch of Post-it notes in here with everybody's names on. And I have Janet Ishimoto is the winner.
Yay, Janet, congratulations. So Janet, direct message in the chat, Diane Blazek, your shipping information, so she can have that prize sent directly to you. So you'll just scroll through, click on Diane Blazek, and send her your contact information. And congratulations, Janet. So 2 more opportunities to win things. So stick around for some more of the questions here. So our next question of our authors is, who is the book designed for and why? And we're going to start this round with Christy.
Sure. Grow Your Own Mini Fruit Garden is designed for both beginning and veteran gardeners alike. If you've read any of my material already, you know that I like to mix in the science of why we're doing the things that we're being told to do when we're gardening. So it is, as I said, it's specifically for small space gardeners. So whether you have a balcony or a patio or a small yard, you can grow fruit in those spaces, and I show you and explore all the different ways in which you can do that. So check it out.
Thanks, Christy. How about you, Raphael? Who's your target audience?
Sure. So my book is particularly useful for people that are newer to growing houseplants. However, I think anyone can benefit from the book because there are so many myths and I'm getting all tongue-tied. Myths and misconceptions in plant care in general. And there's tons of them. And as I started writing the book, I realized there's really quite a few. So I help my readers sort through that and also come up with a thinking process of, what kind of approach can you take with houseplant care. So there's really a little bit for everybody.
Excellent. And Tony, who was your book designed and aimed at?
Well, when I first started writing it, I really thought it was going to be for seniors who were experiencing the march of time as their bodies were changing. But it honestly didn't take me long to realize that, people that are in their 20-something and 30-somethings can have physical issues that could potentially hold them back. So it's for anybody who loves to garden and wants to continue to garden with gusto, no matter what challenges come across.
Thanks, Tony. Shawn and Allison, how about your target audience?
Well, our book entitled The First Time Gardener, Growing Plants and Flowers. Can you see it? Sorry, there you go. How's that? No. Yeah. Our book takes any new gardener out there that just wants a new foundation, just a foundation of knowledge to get started in their garden. It takes them on a journey on different vocabulary, different kinds of plants, how plants photosynthesize and get their energy and grow, and then all the way through from getting to know your own garden and what space you have to grow, and then to picking plants, planting them, and then the aftercare and getting them established. So it's a really good book for the first-time gardener.
I know, and I have to add too, it kind of not shocked us, but we thought it was so cool that we learned from a lot of way more experienced gardeners that our book, was presented to, that it has been helpful for them too. And we thought that is so cool. Thank you for that, because that's a really cool compliment.
And speaking of learning from other gardeners and learning things, our next question for our authors is to tell us one thing you learned while writing your book. So we're going to start that round with Raphael. Oh, we can't hear you, Raphael.
Sorry, I had it on mute. Like I just mentioned, I realized really how many myths and misconceptions there are out there as I was writing the book. And also what I realized, throughout writing the book is the fact that so many people don't really observe their plants. People make so many assumptions many times, and that's a real danger. If you don't observe and you're making all these assumptions, a lot of times, you're gonna be digging a really deep hole for yourself that way. So, and then also as I was writing the book, I realized that I described some things that people have an issue with, but they don't even realize it's a problem. And so I try to illuminate, various topics and just go back to the basics and really help my readers get a firm and practical understanding of, what's the best way to take care of your houseplants.
Thank you, Raphael. Yeah, I think the definition of green thumb is being observant.
Absolutely.
That's how it is right there. Tony, how about what you learned?
Well, once I started writing, I realized there was just an abundance of material that I wanted to bring forth. And it just seemed to me that, like I said, I went to 35,000 words. In the course of writing the book, I was so energized by it and so excited by it that I closed the doors to my business that I had been operating for almost 3 decades. I was so jazzed about it. One word of caution, however, is that I don't suggest that you learn how to write a book while you're writing a book. It's not necessarily the way to go about doing that. But I will say that Mary Kate Mackey's book, Write Better, Right Now, was truly a lifesaver for me. And I give you lots of credit for that, Mary Kate. Thank you.
Excellent endorsement. I endorse Mary Kate's book as well. How about you, Shawn and Allison? What did you learn while writing your book?
Well, the follow-up after Tony, that's so funny because learning how to write a book while writing a book is pretty much defines kind of what we did. Plus, I think the interesting thing that we learned is learning to write a book together. that was a really fun learning experience
Yeah,
for us.
being co-authors was definitely a great experience, and we learned a lot from each other.
It was really hard at times, and then really awesome. I mean, the whole thing was awesome, but it was, there were struggles, but
Yeah, I
it
mean,
was pretty cool.
yeah, we have different styles of taking in information and then getting it back out, wrapping our minds around it, and then talking to each other about it and making it make sense between us to then give it back to the reader in written form. And yeah, it was an interesting process.
I just have to add one more thing. I learned so much through this book, just the content as well, because this is really Shawn's kind of wheelhouse, and I come from teaching, but it was just really cool to be able to break everything down and learn it as we went through it too. So that was awesome.
Awesome. How about you, Christy? What did you learn?
It's funny because Tony mentioned Mary Kate Mackey and her writing her other book. She has a new book out right now, and she just happens to be the guest on my podcast this week. So you can all go listen to our conversation and learn more about that book that Tony just talked about. And so for me, writing the book, it was a chance that, like I said in the beginning, dive into what's known as backyard orchard culture. So if you're not familiar with that, it's such a revelation. And I got a chance to interview one of my favorite mentors, who's Tom Spellman, who works for Dave Wilson Nursery. And he does a lot of their videos on instructions on how to plant trees properly and space them properly and all of that. And he really has a really interesting way of teaching about backyard orchard culture. So I got to learn more about that and then disseminate it in my book and, help people take this home into their own gardens. I'm really excited about that.
So interesting. So most garden writers are also speakers, and I think all of our authors tonight also do a great deal of speaking. So when you give talks, what is the most common question you get, and how do you answer it? So we're going to start this round with Tony.
Well, I'm kind of known as the tool queen, because that's what my business was for nearly 3 decades. And so I'm always asked about tools because I know that gardeners love their tools. And of course, they always ask about which pruner that I recommend. And I can't recommend any one pruner because there's so many different manufacturers and models. The main thing is I tell them to take it out of the packaging so they could feel it in their hand, because comfort is king. So that is the most important thing that comes up time and time again, is about, tools and what tools to use for what jobs.
How about you, Shawn and Allison? What is your most common question that you get?
Well, we get kind of a dual common question. It's kind of a toss up between pruning and mulching, and for the pruning, it can get down into the nitty gritty, or it can just be basic. I don't want to prune my plants because I'm afraid I'm going to kill it. What do I do? How do I, And then for the mulching, it can be like, how do I start? What should I use? But a lot of times people get really opinionated about what mulch to use, and they have really strong opinions about it. So it makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah, they are such big topics, and our book covers so much. So, and our audience knows that we're kind of more generalists. So we get, questions are all over the place. So it's fun.
Yeah.
How about you, Christy? I know you do a lot of talks.
I do. And while a lot of my students and guests ask a lot of questions about vegetable gardening, because that's kind of what I'm known for, I also have this really popular YouTube video on how to fix citrus tree problems. So the question I get asked the most lately is, what's wrong with my citrus tree and how do I fix it? And I often have to start with, where is it located? Because a lot of people plant trees in the middle of their lawn. And so right there, you've got a problem, because your fruit trees want completely opposite watering of what your lawns get. And so, it's just a matter of diagnosing what's going on and helping people figure out how to do that on their own as well.
Great tip, Christy. How about you, Raphael?
So I get a lot of different questions. One of the more common ones is, why is my houseplant getting yellow leaves? And so what most of us do, right, when we have a problem, we go on Google, we type, and most of the time, or a lot of sites will just say overwatering. And for me, it's a trigger word. And I have a whole section in my book on overwatering. And it's I had a lot to say about it. And so it's interesting because when people see that, they don't even observe the state of their potting mix. Is it dry or is it wet? They just assume overwatering, oh my gosh, and then they back off on watering even more. But then when I ask them, okay, what can you feel the soil for me? Then they're shocked to find out that it's bone dry. And so observation is key. I forgot, someone said it earlier. It's the most important thing that you can do when it comes to any type of plant that you're caring for. Observation is key. So that is, it's a missing link. And I teach people an approach, a questioning approach. What kind of questions do I have to ask myself when I have a problem?
Excellent. So we're going to go on to our second raffle prize of the evening. And the prize is the Seed Dibbler, along with several packets of AAS All-American Selection winner seeds. So you'll have the seeds and this cool little tool to plant them with. And Shawn and Allison, I want you to tell people what the Seed Dibbler is. So they're showing it on the camera right now.
So yeah, there we go. So we're showing it right now. Hopefully you can see it really well. This is the little dibby, and it's two tools in one. It's actually on this end. It's the dibber. It's a seed dibber, and what you do is it's got graduated rings on it for seed depth, depending on how deep you need to plant the seed. And so it starts at 1/8 and it goes to 1/4 and then 1/2. And so you use that to make your hole, and you can really consistently make your hole there. And then on the other end, it's got what's called a widger, and it's actually to scoop and transplant your seedlings out nice and carefully and get them into their new home.
Cool. And is it only available in that one color?
No, actually, yeah. So yeah. So.
Cool. I like the rainbow of choices. That's fabulous. All right. So Diane's gonna pick that winner from the attendees that are here. She's got her cup, her mug of Post-its
with all the names in here. And this one is, if I can read my writing, Angelo Jackson.
Yay!
Congratulations, Angelo. So you are going to send a direct message to Diane Blazek and let her know your shipping information again so we can get the dibbler and the seeds to you. And I see you there, Angelo. I see your face. So congratulations.
Yeah,
that's so
my
cool.
Let us know what color you want too.
Yes. And they said, tell us what color you want. And I want to see what you grow. So I hope that you join us for the fall book party and show us what you grew from those seeds. That would be really cool too.
I will. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Angelo. So our next question is for our authors is, what plant or product do you recommend every gardener try? And so I'm going to start this round with Shawn and Allison.
Oh, okay. Well, oh my gosh, this is a tough one. I mean, man. How do you pick a favorite plant or a product? Since we do have such a beginner audience, we, kind of stick with plants that are a little easier to care for. And one we recommend that we love at home is just like a hot lip salvia. It's especially if they like herbs and they want to attract hummingbirds and they love color and long blooming and drought tolerance. I mean, it has so many benefits.
Yeah,
it's a fun one.
Really, once you get the plant established, it just kind of takes care of itself, especially in our climate out here. Once it's established, it's drought tolerant, it's heat tolerant. It blooms from basically the middle of spring all the way into the fall. Might take a break here, a little bit here or there, but really it just kind of continuously keeps blooming. It's a beautiful plant.
I just realized I don't think we ever said where we're from. Yeah. We're in the Pacific Northwest in Washington State, Zone 8B. And this salvia in particular is zones 8 through 10. So anyway.
Yeah, that's such a great one. Here in the other Washington, D.C., it does well for us too. So how about you, Christy, a favorite plant or product?
Yeah, and this sounds maybe a little bit boring, but the thing that I recommend the most to pretty much everyone I talk to until I'm blue in the face is worm castings. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what worm castings is a nice way of saying poop. And so worm castings are something that they're really great fertilizer. They are nutrient dense. A little bit goes a long way. You can make them yourselves if you don't have enough room for a compost bin. Worm castings are easy and they have a small footprint, so you can keep them in a closet if you want to. And they're one of those things that has a secret benefit that I'm going to talk about in my little chat room afterwards. So you can join me there. That's my teaser. Hope to see you there.
I love that teaser, Christy. Yeah, and vermicomposting doesn't smell. That's going to be probably the top concern a lot of people ask, but nope, doesn't smell at all. How about you, Raphael? Your favorite plant or product?
Sure, and I recommend for newer houseplant parents, or if you've been struggling with houseplants in general, to stick with, you know, the standards, the easy standards like pothos, snake plants, seedling plants, Hoyas. Those are all very tough, easy to grow plants. And wait until you can master the care, until you master the basics of houseplant care before going on and purchasing those more expensive plants. There are, if you've been following the tropical plant market, it's gone insane, and you can buy plants for hundreds of dollars, for thousands of dollars. It's crazy. The prices have gone mad. So it's better to really get comfortable with the easier to grow plants until you've mastered that before, you know, unfortunately wasting money and killing some more expensive plants.
And you're not kidding, Raphael, with that. It's almost like tulip mania back in the day, right? How the houseplant market is going. So Tony,
yeah, it's insane. It's insane
yes.
What's happening. Yeah.
And I was going to say, Tony, our self-admitted tool lady, I know you have a great planter product to recommend.
Yes, I do. I've got 3 products. The first, of course, is the reversible kneeler bench. If you don't have one, you need to get one. Every gardener should have one. It doesn't matter if you're old or young. It's a great aid to have, that you can actually sit down next to your pots, and when you're ready to get down on your knees, you can just flip it over and you use the legs to push yourself back up, because we all know we can get down, but we can't always get back up. The second product is the Ironwood tool sharpener that has a good guard on it, so you're not going to accidentally hurt yourself. And it's got a 400 grit and a 600 grit for sharpening as well as polishing. And then my all-time favorite is the soil scoop, twice as large as the average trowel that's on the market, and just a lot more efficient, saving you time and energy.
Wow, 3 for you.
A 3 for, why not?
Yeah, you got a lot in there, Tony. Those are excellent recommendations.
Thank you.
All right, so for our next question, so this is gonna be a little bit of a stumper for our authors. So tell us about your biggest garden goof and what you learned from it. So this round we'll start with Christy.
Well, I am a big fan of failure. It's how we learn. So I'll happily share this one. It's something you'll only ever do once. Let me tell you that. So and this is a vegetable thing. I was growing potatoes, and here in where I live, we can grow them in either fall or spring. But I made the mistake of watering the plants after the foliage had died back. And I ended up with a putrid, rotten, anaerobic bacteria laden bed full of like wormy, disgusting potatoes. And I swear I've only done it once, and that's all you ever need to do in order to make sure you never do that again.
Yikes, lesson learned. All right, how about you, Raphael?
Sure. So I'll have to say it's a beware of things that make your life too easy. And I have an example for that. So everybody loves maidenhair ferns. They're gorgeous. They can be very finicky because they like to, they like a lot of moisture. And so what I did was I planted one in a self-watering pot, and it worked miracles, except for the fact that it's easy to forget about it, because really all you have to do is monitor the water level, right? And make sure you have it in between, the 2 red lines on the gauge. And I got lazy. Oh, it's okay. Then I forgot about it. And a few weeks later, I said, I haven't checked on my maidenhair fern. I had let it go, completely dried out, and I had a crispy maidenhair fern. So beware if you're using, a self-watering pot, you still have to keep your eye on it. Don't get too lazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no such thing as no maintenance.
That's right.
All right, Tony, how about your biggest goof?
Well, mine was really a sin against every master gardener in that we always teach the concept of right plant, right place. And after returning from Italy, I was so excited about having fresh figs off the tree. First time I went to the nursery, I bought a black mission fig tree, came home and planted it. 2 days later, my girlfriend came over and said, Tony, tell me that's a dwarf. And I said, no, it's not. She said, tell me it's a semi-dwarf. I said, no, it's not a semi-dwarf either. I promised her I was going to keep it, you know, pruned down. And after the second season, it was like, it became a monster. And it wasn't fair to the plant because it wanted to be 25 feet tall, 25 feet wide. And did I mention my front yard is 15 feet deep? That was a big goof.
Like literally big goof.
Oh, yeah.
All right. How about you, Shawn and Allison? You never made any mistakes.
we
right?
Oh, never.
So many.
No, never. My biggest goof goes back to when I was about 10 or 11 years old, and my parents decided, hey, this is a good time for Shawn to learn how to prune a hedge, an arborvitae hedge. Well, I had never done it before. I wasn't given any direction. And if you've ever pruned an arborvitae hedge or arborvitae in general, you know you can prune it so far back, and then if you go too far back, it doesn't really grow back. Well, I went really far back, and we had the funniest looking arborvitae hedge in the neighborhood. So.
Oh, well, I guess I can throw mine in too. I mean, I've had so many. Definitely learn as I go here, but mine was definitely lavender, just an English lavender plant. Before Shawn came along and taught me all the ways, I had it planted in the shade under a dogwood tree. I thought it was a great spot because I wanted it by my front door when I walked in, but no, it got like no sun. It was so sad looking, and just, yeah, we actually did rehab it. We, moved it and transplanted it, and it did okay. So thank you.
Well, I'm glad to hear that one was resuscitated. But yeah, all of us have killed so many plants in our effort to learn about gardening, and it's all about experience, right? And failure is just a one step closer to success. So don't worry if you've killed a few plants out there. And I was going to say, anybody who has killed a few plants, raise your hand. You can do so in the chat as well. Yes, all these experienced expert gardeners are raising their hands. So if you've killed a plant, you're not alone. So we're going to go to our next raffle drawing. And we have another Seed Dibbler from Shawn and Allison, and another set of All-America Selection winner seed packs. And Diane, if you can get the mug and do that little magic drawing. There she is.
Well, I've got multiples. Hang on. Okay.
If they're stuck together.
They are stuck together.
Oh no.
And I put first name on one side. Okay. Maya O'Connor.
Yay, Maya.
Yay.
All right. And Shawn and Allison said to pick the color of the dibbler you want, and then you will go in the chat and select Diane Blazek and send your contact information so she can send you those prizes. All right. So we're coming up on our last round of questions for our authors, and then we're going to be in the breakout rooms. So start thinking about which of the breakout rooms you want to join. So let's ask our authors, what is one gardening secret folks will learn from your book? And we're going to start this one with Raphael.
So there's quite a few that I put in my book. One of the most common ones is humidity. And so a lot of people get really obsessed with humidity, with increasing humidity. And yes, a lot of our houseplants are native to tropical rainforest type environments, and they'll do well, of course. But what's more important is watering properly. And if you water properly, and if you pay enough attention to the moisture needs of your plant, it'll go so much more further in, reducing brown, crispy leaf edges. Versus, being negligent with watering and increasing humidity. So it is, and if you have both, if you have a tropical rainforest plant, you're watering it properly, you're increasing the humidity, you have enough air circulation, then you're golden. But proper watering is really much more important than just increasing your humidity and forgetting about everything else. But I do teach a very holistic approach. of houseplant care in my book. So obviously you can't focus on one thing and forget about, another aspect of houseplant care.
Excellent. All right. So how about you, Tony?
Well, back in the day when we were doing lots of in-person gigs, the one thing that would come up is that people would say to me, I hate to admit that I really had a fear about giving up gardening. And, I'm kind of blowing that out of the water and I'm saying, it's okay. We've all been there at one time or another. Pain can be a real deal breaker, if you will. But in my book, I've got literally hundreds of tips and techniques, as well as 50 different tools that I recommend that can help you to keep doing what you want to do, no matter what happens. And I suggest to you that you find ways to become a resilient gardener and to develop the phrase that I use all the time. My motto is never give up. And that's what I'm hoping my book will help you to do. Never give up doing what you love to do.
Thanks for sharing that, Tony. How about you, Shawn and Allison?
Yeah, in our book, I was going to hold it up since we don't have anywhere to hang it behind us. Basically, like we cover so many topics and we feel really excited to present that, but it's hard to pick just one. We kind of sprinkle lots of tips and secrets and hacks kind of throughout, like from planting seeds, full planting, we go through design all the way up to care after, you've planted the plant. So we kind of embedded them throughout every chapter. But I think one theme that kind of sticks out that we've already touched on quite a bit, but is like that it's okay to make mistakes. We wanted to give our audience a safe place to, basically we're giving them permission to make mistakes, because we have a lot of our audience members that ask us questions and come to us and they're just like, I'm so scared, I think I don't want to do this wrong. I don't want to mess up. And our first, advice back to them is just, it's okay. Just give it a try. This is how we learn and grow and become better.
Excellent. How about you, Christy?
Well, in Grow Your Own Mini Fruit Garden, there are a lot of tips and secrets. The things that I'm thinking of off the top of my head are, I love sharing the right way to brew compost tea, active aerated compost tea. And there are some other tricks in there on how to get an extended harvest and strategically plan your fruit garden so that you're not just getting all the fruit at one time. But the one thing that I think I emphasize the most is about soil prep and how to properly plant a fruit tree, because a lot of people get really excited. They go to the store, they buy, if you have whatever gardener's disease it is, where you go to the nursery and you buy something and you don't really have a place for it, but you bring it back and then you have to find a place for it. And that is, what people will often do is drill a cylinder in the ground and drop that plant, that fruit tree in the ground, and then wonder why it's not doing really well thereafter. And so I recommend that instead of drilling a cylinder, you dig a saucer and prep that soil to a diameter of at least 3 to 5 feet, so that it's going to be a welcome place for those roots to venture out and develop a strong root system in their first year. So you'll find all the details about that in the book and more.
Excellent, Christy. Yeah, not having to dig so much is also a good thing. So that's great. So I think it's why Wei Lai has your hand raised. Did you want to unmute or ask a question, or was that by accident?
I think that was in response to you asking people to hold their hand up earlier.
Okay, then great. Yes, that was like, we're all plant killers. Okay. So we actually have time for one more question, because you've all been so well behaved today. So we're going to ask a bonus question of all our authors. Then we're going to have a thank you from our 2 host organizations, and then we're going to jump into those breakout rooms. So our bonus question is going to be asking about our authors' sheroes or heroes in gardening before then, if there's somebody that inspired them. And let's start this one with Tony.
Who has inspired me? Wow. Every master gardener I've ever met. Because I appreciate, we were all raised with myths growing up. And, my dad in particular used to give me gardening myths, that, once I became a master gardener, I thought, what was he talking about? No wonder my plant, he used to say a 5 cent plant in a 10-cent hole. Well, what he meant was twice as wide and twice as deep. Well, no wonder my plants were sinking down, because there was all that loose soil underneath, and the plants were like trying to get some air up there. So master gardeners and the fact that it's research-based information, that wins it every time for me.
Great, thanks, Tony. How about you, Shawn and Allison? A garden hero or inspiration?
For me, it's my father. It's my dad. He taught me through the rhododendron business that I grew up in, just how to care for plants, a whole bunch of different things about watering and care, and then the appreciation of them, and how you can make a living at it, and how it can be really, really just fulfilling. So
and actually I have kind of the same answer, because both of my parents were my inspiration, and definitely my dad. He had such a love for plants and trees. So growing up watching him, I feel like that really inspired me and kind of led me down the road of science and becoming a teacher of science. So I really think that really inspired me.
So nice. How about you, Christy?
Well, I'm the daughter of a nurse and an engineer, so I have that nerd/science brain that really gets curious. So I have to thank my parents for that, of course. But one of the people who's really inspiring to me is John Jevens, who is the founder of Grow Biointensive, and he works at Ecology Action, and he's been teaching his technique of growing food in small spaces for almost 50 years now. And they're in over 150 countries where they teach people how to grow food with, starting with basically nothing. And he's got a mind toward reducing the amount of square feet required to grow food per person on the planet, because we're losing topsoil and our population is growing. So I'm always thinking in that big picture way when I share information with people. So if you haven't heard of him, John Jevens, Jeavons, check him out. You're going to really like him.
Thanks, Christy. And Raphael, how about an inspirational person or hero in your life?
Sure. So I would have to say, so in the tropical houseplant world, Enid O'Falter, so she owns MSE Tropicals down in Florida, and she has been selling a type of plant called an aeroid. So she sells various aeroids, and she's been doing it for so long, well before the current houseplant craze. And she has such a variety of different philodendrons, anthuriums, monsteras, all sorts of wild and cool plants. And I think she's been doing a wonderful job in her business. I actually got a variegated ZZ plant, which is really cool. I don't know if you guys can see it. Yeah, it's really pretty. She has a beautiful variety, supplying all of us that are crazy about houseplants with our addiction.
Nice. Well, you said the magic word, Raphael, which is variegated houseplant.
Yeah.
so many cool new houseplant introductions going on, and so many selections. So in the chat, there's a lively conversation going on about caterpillars, good and bad. So if you want to weigh in on there, and that reminds me that if you want to save this chat conversation, you can go to the right where it says to everyone on the left, or to a name on the left, all the way on the right, there's 3 dots. Click on that. It says more. And then at the top, save chat. So all those links we've been sharing, all that conversation that's been happening, if you want to save that, go ahead and hit save chat. But also you're going to get a follow-up email from Diane, and that's going to have a lot of the links and things that we shared with you tonight. So you don't have to crazy copy down everything or anything like that. So we should let you know that earlier for note taking. And so let's wrap up before we jump into the breakout rooms with our 2 program sponsors again. And we'll start off with Maria again.
Yeah, I live here in the Northeast Ohio snow belt. And so like I've already got spring fever, but after listening to these inspiring authors, I am more than ready to get out there and grow this year. And so I want to take a moment to thank our authors, Tony, Christy, Shawn and Allison, Raphael, and you, Kathy, our podcaster, host, and author. We really appreciate you guys sharing your gardening passion with us. The audience can see the members of GardenComm and of National Garden Bureau come from many different backgrounds. And to learn more about Garden Communicators International, you can go to gardencom.org. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Diane. Thank you all.
Thank you, Maria. Somebody had just asked a question about being on the phone. She can't save the chat. So yes, we can send the chat to everybody. I think Kathy answered that. Kathy is like on the ball as a moderator. You have been awesome. The authors, oh my gosh, yeah, you have inspired us all to get out there. Yeah, I'm in Chicago, so can't really plant anything outside yet, but I'm doing a lot of it inside. So yeah, we appreciate everybody who is a member of GardenComm, because me wearing my National Garden Bureau hat, we couldn't do what we do without you guys. You're the ones out there reaching out, educating and inspiring the home gardener, just like we do. So we really appreciate that. And let's see here. I also want to give a preview to our fall our fall book party. So save the date. It's on Thursday, November 10th, 2022. So this fall, and again at 6 p.m. Central Time. And you're just going to have to pay attention to social media and your emails to find out which authors we are going to have on that book party. So I think with that, I'm going to toss it back to you, Kathy, to explain how to go into the breakout rooms.
Sure. And Diane, I know that everybody who signed up for this talk will also get that invitation for the fall. And I just popped the date in the chat too, just because sometimes numbers can fly by you and you're like, what was that date? But yes, hit save the chat. So Diane's going to start the breakout rooms. And so there's going to be 4 rooms, one for each author. Tony, she can wave, Shawn and Allison, Christy and Raphael, so they can go now and join their rooms.
Yes, I'm opening up all the rooms. We found out the other night that it doesn't stay open a long time, so you might want to grab your room right away.
Yep. And I'm going to stay in the main room, so if you have trouble making a decision or just want to chat more about caterpillars, you can stay here and we can chat about all other things gardening if you want to. So go ahead and jump in with the authors, and after that, this event will be closed. You won't be coming back to the main room. So have a wonderful evening and thank you for joining us, everyone.